Nobody came to my graduation. Not one familiar face in the entire crowd. They called my name over the speakers, clear and proud, and the row reserved for family stayed completely empty, metal seats shining in the sun like they were mocking me. I still walked across the stage. I still smiled for the camera. I still held my diploma like it meant something more than it did 10 seconds before. And I still pretended it did not hurt. 3 days later, my phone lit up. Need $2,100 for your sister's sweet 16. No, congratulations. No, how did it go? Just numbers and entitlement. So I sent $1 with a note that said, congrats. Then I called a locksmith. That was the day the story really started. The ceremony itself should have been the moment I finally felt noticed. The stadium was glowing in May sunlight, a sea of navy gowns and parents trying not to cry while filming everything on their phones. When the announcer said, Brooke Elise Lawson, Master of Data Analytics, I was 29 years old, and for some stupid reason, I still instinctively glanced toward the front rows, looking for them. The reserved for family section stared back at me, empty and silver in the light. Not even a jacket tossed over a seat. Not even the outline of someone who had tried and failed to make it. I smiled anyway, the way you do when there is a camera pointed at you. My cheeks hurt from holding it in place. Around me, people were yelling, crying, clapping. Students ran into their parents' arms, bouquets everywhere, phones up, hugs piling on top of hugs. I stood next to a stranger's family while they took photos, my own smile shrinking a little more with every flash. Later, I drifted around the courtyard pretending to be busy on my phone because it was easier than standing there looking obviously alone. My classmate Ruby spotted me and squealed. You did it, she said, wrapping her arms around me. Her parents stepped in and took pictures of us together, all beaming smiles and proud energy. She glanced past my shoulder, scanning the crowd. Where's your family? Are they running late? Yeah, I lied. Traffic. The lie slipped out like it had been waiting. Years of practice will do that. By the time I got to the parking lot, the sky had gone soft and gold. Balloons bobbed above cars, kids were shouting, horns were honking for no reason except that people were happy. I sat in my beat-up Civic and watched it all from behind the wheel. For a second, I let myself imagine them walking toward me. My mom, Linda, waving with one hand while my little sister Avery bounced next to her in glitter sneakers. My dad, Mark, holding a bouquet like he had picked the best one he could find. Then engines started. Cars pulled away. The vision dissolved. If I am being honest, I should not have been surprised. They skipped my college graduation too. Back then, my mom said Avery had finals and my dad did not even pretend. It was always something. Always another priority. Always a shinier excuse. I spent my teens trying to earn love like it came with a GPA requirement. 2 jobs. Late nights. Sending money home as soon as it hit my account. Saying yes to every, "Can you help with this?" text. At 16, I wore a brown apron at Starbucks before school, serving caramel macchiatos to people who actually slept. My mom would text things like, "Thanks, honey, Avery needs piano lessons," or, "She has a field trip, just a little extra, okay." The first time she said, "You are our pride," I believed her. I thought that was what love sounded like. Now I know it was obligation dressed up as praise. When I got into grad school, I told myself this degree would be the turning point. That if I just achieved enough, worked enough, proved enough, maybe she would finally see me as more than backup income. Not the emergency fund disguised as a daughter, but an actual adult. An equal. I did not know that in my family, even success could be turned into a pipeline to take more. 3 days after the ceremony, my gown was still hanging by the door when that text came in. Need $2,100 for your sister's sweet 16. No question mark. No warmth. Just a dollar amount and a deadline. I stared at it long enough that my phone dimmed and locked itself. I tapped the screen again. The same sentence waited for me, sitting there like a command, not a request. I should have been numb. Money had been our family's second language for years, the one they used instead of affection. I paid, they said, "You are such a good daughter," and the cycle continued. But that day, something felt different. Maybe it was the echo of thousands of hands clapping for everyone but me. Maybe it was the photo of me alone in the stadium that I still could not bring myself to delete. Maybe I had just finally run out of excuses to keep buying a version of love that never actually showed up. I opened my banking app. My savings barely cleared $3,000. A tight little ache formed in my chest. I entered $1. In the note, I wrote, "Congrats." Then I pressed send. The confirmation flashed on the screen. Sent. I sat there for a full minute, phone in hand, feeling something inside me shift. It was not dramatic. It was not lightning. More like a tired person finally standing up. Then I stood up for real. I walked to the drawer by my front door and pulled out the spare key my mother had insisted on keeping, for emergencies. For years, that key meant they could enter my life whenever they wanted. Drop in. Borrow things. Comment. Criticize. Ask. I looked at it for a second, then dropped it into the trash. That night, I called a locksmith. He showed up about an hour later, older guy, soft voice, hands that moved like he had been doing this since forever. His tools clinked quietly as he worked, a weirdly soothing sound in my small, tidy apartment. The new lock clicked into place, sharp and solid, so final it felt like it echoed. When he left, I stood in the doorway for a long moment, breathing in the faint smell of metal and oil. It was the first real boundary I had ever built. The next morning, light spilled across my living room, catching the edges of my thrift store furniture and the little plant on the windowsill that refused to die. I made coffee and watched the steam curl up into the quiet. For the first time, I noticed how silence could feel good. Say, mine. No one could walk in without knocking. No one could just appear and start asking. Peace had a sound. It was that stillness. Until the knocking started. Firm. Rhythmic. Persistent. My stomach dropped. It was not my landlord, Mrs. Patel. She always called first and knocked like she was afraid of breaking the door. This was different. Confident. I looked through the peephole. 2 uniforms filled the hallway. Denver police, one of them said, voice calm and professional. Miss Lawson. I opened the door slowly, heart slamming in my chest. Yes. The taller officer, a black man who looked somewhere in his 30s, held up his badge. We received a call from your mother. She said you have been acting erratically. Changing locks, not answering calls. She is concerned for your safety and said you might harm yourself. For a second, I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was so outrageous it looped past anger into something that felt like disbelief. She did what? I asked quietly. His expression softened. We just need to confirm you are okay. Mind if we step inside? I moved aside. They walked in. My apartment looked exactly like my life. Coffee mug on the table. Laptop open with a data project still glowing on the screen. Diploma hanging on the wall, the one nobody came to see. I gestured around. Do I look unstable to you? The officer's mouth tugged like he had to fight a smile. Not even close, ma'am. He asked a few questions. Work. Stress. Medical history. Family. I answered all of them honestly. Just finished my master's, I said. I am applying for jobs. No medical issues. I changed my locks and sent $1 instead of 2,100. That is it. The only thing unstable in here is the Wi-Fi. He nodded. We will file this as no concern. If your mother calls again, you can reference this visit. They headed for the door, but before he left, he paused. Sometimes when people finally start standing up for themselves, everyone around them panics. Happens more than you would think. When the door closed, I leaned my back against it. I was shaking, not from fear, but from a kind of white-hot fury that felt slow and controlled. My mother had not just crossed a line. She had declared war on it. That night, I sat on the couch with the police report open in my inbox, the words blurring and sharpening as I read them over and over. I replayed every time she had guilted me into sending money. Every "family helps" family text that really meant, you are responsible for everyone but yourself. It had never been about care. It was always about control. I did not know exactly what she was planning next, only that if she was willing to call the police on me for changing my own locks, there were no brakes on that train. The silence in my apartment did not feel peaceful anymore. It felt like the air before a storm. And for the first time in my life, I realized I was done standing in the open, waiting to get struck. I woke up before sunrise the next morning, the sky still washed in that pale gray haze that makes a city look softer than it really is. My apartment was silent except for the hum of the fridge and the faint tick of the wall clock. The police report sat open on my laptop from the night before, a reminder of just how far my mother was willing to go. I didn't touch my phone right away. I didn't want to. I knew the silence from my mother wasn't peace, it was strategy. She wasn't the type to retreat. She was the type to reload. I made coffee, sat at the table, and finally flipped my phone over. No missed calls, no texts. That was almost worse. Trying to distract myself, I opened my laptop and clicked on the folder with my job applications. But my eyes kept drifting back to my banking app icon, like something inside me was tugging at a thread I didn't even know was loose. Finally, I tapped it. The moment the screen loaded, my stomach dropped so fast it felt physical. 2 brand new credit inquiries. Capital One. Discover. Both recent. Both unauthorized. Both tied to my name. My chest tightened. I hadn't applied for anything. I hadn't given anyone permission. And definitely not to anyone in my family. I clicked deeper into my credit report, my breath catching as the page loaded. 2 active accounts. Both opened in the last month. Both showing my social security number. Both using my parents' address in Littleton, not mine. And both already racking up charges. I scrolled to the transaction history, my pulse thudding in my ears. Cherry Creek Events. Denver DJ Agency. Glam Studio. Event Rentals. Cake Depot. A stylist. A caterer. My mother's message flashed in my mind like a slap. Asterisk, need 2,100 for your sister's sweet 16. Asterisk, it wasn't a request. It wasn't even manipulation this time. It was a distraction. A decoy. She hadn't just used me for money. She became me to get it. I sat there frozen, my coffee turning cold beside me, the room so quiet it felt like the world had stopped spinning. Then I reached for my phone. Colorado is a one-party consent recording state. That meant I could legally record the next call without telling her. I opened my voice recorder. Hit record. Dialed my mother's number. She answered on the 3rd ring. Well, she said, voice sharp, you're alive. Mom, I said evenly, I found 2 credit cards under my name. Using your address. Do you want to explain that? She laughed. An actual laugh. Oh, that. I was helping you build credit. You should be grateful. And we needed to finish paying for Avery's sweet 16. Stop dramatizing. It's family money. What's yours is ours. No, I said softly. What's mine is mine. And what's yours is under investigation. Silence. Thick. Shocked. Vibrating. You wouldn't dare, she whispered. I already did. I ended the call, saved the recording, and named the file, Boundaries, May 17, 2025. I sat there for a long moment, letting the quiet settle into something solid. Then I grabbed my keys. Because I knew exactly what had to happen next. I drove to a diner in Highlands Ranch, the kind of place with cracked vinyl booths, fluorescent lighting, and a constant smell of burnt coffee. Neutral territory. Public. Safe. Impossible to scream in. I showed up early. They showed up 15 minutes late. My mother walked in first, wearing a floral dress and sunglasses like she was shielding herself from judgment. My father followed, smaller than I remembered, shoulders heavy. Avery trailed behind them, glued to her phone, thumbs tapping like the world outside the screen didn't exist. My mother slid into the booth across from me. "Really, Camila," she said sharply, "you made us drive all the way here for dinner?" "We're not eating," I said. My voice was steady. Calm. "We're talking." The waitress poured coffee and disappeared. I slid a brown folder across the table. "2 credit cards opened in my name," I said. Capital One. Discover. Both tied to your address. Both used to pay for Avery's Sweet 16. My mother's smile barely twitched. "Oh, honey," she said lightly. "I did it for you. You need credit history." I was helping. "Helping," I repeated quietly. "You forged my signature." She waved her hand. "Don't be dramatic. It's family. You're always so ungrateful. Do you think the world doesn't know who paid for your education?" I laughed. Loud enough that people turned. "You mean me?" "I paid for it. Every check. Every shift. Every loan you told me to take while you used my college fund to buy Avery's prom dress." Avery rolled her eyes. "Here we go again," she muttered. I turned to her. "That silver dress you wore to your party. Paid for on a card opened in my name." Her eyes flickered. Confusion. Fear. Shame. She didn't know. Not all of it. But my mother cut in quickly. "Enough. You don't talk to your sister like that." She leaned forward. "I didn't steal from you, Camila. I borrowed, for the family." "You used my identity," I said. "You called the police on me because I changed my locks. You tried to make me look unstable to keep control." My father finally spoke. "Sweetheart, your mother just got carried away. Let's handle this privately." I pushed the folder closer. "There is no privately. The bank already knows. The investigation is open. They have your signature, your phone number, your address." My mother's face drained of color. "You did what?" "I reported the fraud," I said. "The accounts are frozen. You'll be hearing from them soon." The silence that followed hit the entire diner like a dropped tray. "You'll regret this," my mother hissed. "You're destroying this family over a misunderstanding." "No, Mom," I said as I stood. "You destroyed it the moment you decided my name was worth more to you than my love." I left cash for my coffee on the table and walked out before she could answer. Outside, the sky smelled like rain. I sat in my car, staring at my reflection in the mirror. My hands were shaking. But my chest felt light. Hollow in a clean way. A way that could finally fill with something better. That night, as Cherry Creek glittered in purple and silver for Avery's Sweet 16, I stood at my window, watching lightning pulse above the city. Peace didn't feel like forgiveness. It felt like finally closing a door that should have been shut years ago. Cherry Creek was glowing that night. Purple uplights shining against glass walls. Silver balloons drifting toward the ceiling. Teenagers in glitter dresses and rented tuxes dancing under a spinning disco ball. Avery's Sweet 16. The celebration my mother had stolen my identity to fund. The party I was never invited to, yet somehow paid for. I wasn't there, of course. I didn't need to be. Because at 8:45 p.m., while the city hummed under a warm Denver twilight, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Miss Reed?" A crisp female voice. "This is Lauren Stein, legal representative for Capital One in Colorado. I'm calling to inform you that your fraud report has been escalated." Our internal team is verifying transactions at the Sweet 16 venue tonight. You are not required to attend, but we wanted you notified. My breath caught. You're sending police to the event? Yes, ma'am. Standard procedure. Identity theft is a serious matter. I thanked her quietly and hung up. I sat in the dark, listening to the distant pulse of music drifting faintly from downtown. A celebration built on my stolen name. A party bought with money I never spent. 40 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. Avery. The screen lit up with a frantic, breathless text. Are you insane? The police just showed up. The DJ stopped. Everyone's staring. Mom's freaking out. Another message came instantly. They said your name. The banker guy said your name. What did you do? I didn't reply. Across town, under chandeliers and neon lights, 2 officers entered the banquet hall. No sirens. No shouting. Just quiet authority cutting through the music. A banker followed behind them, carrying a folder thick with receipts and contracts. Good evening, one officer said, calm and neutral. We're here to verify a report of credit card fraud associated with this event. The charges were made using an account under the name Camila Reed. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Phones lifted. Cameras flashed. My mother froze near the cake table, color draining from her face. There must be a mistake, she whispered. The banker opened the folder. Primary applicant, Linda M. Reed. Cosigner, unauthorized. Transactions match a documented case of identity misuse. The room went silent. All those teenagers, all those parents covered in sequins and perfume and expensive blowouts, they watched as the truth cracked open like glass. Someone whispered, isn't that her daughter's name? Avery stood in the center of the dance floor, mascara smudged, the spotlight suddenly too bright. Her voice shook. Mom, what did you do? The officer continued professionally, we are not making arrests tonight. This is documentation for the bank's case. But we will need to collect receipts, ID verification, and contact information. The DJ unplugged his equipment. The neon lights dimmed. That giant silver banner, Avery's Sweet 16, Born to Shine, drooped under the weight of humidity and humiliation. Parents pulled their kids aside. Teenagers whispered behind their hands. Phones kept recording. And slowly, in quiet waves of awkwardness and pity, the party emptied. Outside, rain began to fall. Soft at first, then steady. My mother walked out into the drizzle, her perfect makeup smudging, her floral dress sticking to her skin, her reputation unraveling in real time. Back in my apartment, I watched lightning flash across the city skyline. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I just let the silence sit beside me. For years I thought silence meant weakness. But that night, silence sounded like justice. 3 days later, the storm had passed, but not the fallout. An email arrived from Capital One, fraud investigation resolved. Primary applicant, Linda M. Reed has acknowledged unauthorized use and agreed to repay $8,412 in full. One single sentence, and yet it said everything. No apologies. No excuses. Just the truth finally pinned down on paper where no one could twist it anymore. But the fallout spread faster than the paperwork. In Littleton, gossip traveled even faster than justice. Whispers slipped through grocery aisles, church pews, nail salons, school hallways. Did you hear about the Reeds? Something about fraud? Police at the Sweet 16, Avery's party got shut down. A 30-second video, someone had filmed the moment police entered, hit 500,000 views before Avery locked all her accounts. My father got called into HR after someone reported private mail and financial statements being sent to his company address. Avery stopped posting entirely. My mother vanished offline. I didn't feel guilty. Not even a little. I froze my credit, filed FTC forms. Closed every account she ever touched. Printed the final confirmation letter and pinned it beside my diploma and the locksmith's receipt. 3 documents. Side by side. Proof of effort. Proof of protection. Proof of freedom. That night, I opened the window and let Denver's cold air spill in. The city hummed under me, alive, indifferent, honest. And the silence in my apartment finally felt like healing instead of loneliness. For the first time, my life didn't feel like something I had to defend. It felt like something I got to build. 6 months passed, quietly and steadily, like the world was finally breathing at the same pace as me. Denver shifted into autumn. The foothills glowed with gold leaves. Cold mornings turned coffee steam into little ghosts rising from my mug. Life felt clearer, lighter, almost like someone had opened a window inside my chest. By then, I had a new apartment on the west side of the city. Closer to the mountains. Closer to the version of myself I'd been trying to become for years. I changed my number. Cut off every account my mother ever touched. Kept only the people who treated me like a person, not a resource. And I started a new job at Nova Data Labs. A place where people actually listened. Where effort mattered more than obligation. Where my name wasn't a tool for someone else's convenience. On the wall above my desk, I hung 3 things: my framed diploma, my new employee badge, and the old rusted deadbolt from the night I changed my locks. Together, they told a story much louder than words. A story of leaving, protecting, and finally choosing myself. Every Thursday, I took a quiet walk to a small community center a few blocks away. Inside one of the conference rooms was a support group, Boundaries and Healing. A circle of strangers with familiar wounds. People who had carried burdens that weren't theirs until their bones bent under the weight. The first time I spoke, my voice shook. Not because I was afraid, but because the truth finally had space to sit in the air without being dismissed. No one rolled their eyes. No one scolded me. No one said, "Family helps family," in that manipulative tone I'd grown up with. They nodded. They understood. And slowly, something inside me untangled. One afternoon, I drove to Lookout Mountain. Parked at the overlook. Sat in the driver's seat of the same Camry they once stole from me. The steering wheel was warm under the sunlight. For a long time, I just sat there, staring at the mountains layered smoky blue against the horizon. Something settled in. Me, calm and absolute. My life hadn't been ruined. It had been reclaimed. And that feeling alone was worth everything I lost. Weeks later, a plain envelope arrived in my mailbox. No return address. But the handwriting on the front was familiar. Slanted, looping, uneven. Elena. I opened it slowly. Inside was a letter. Short, shaky, honest. She didn't beg for forgiveness. She didn't blame anyone. She didn't ask for anything. She wrote that she had started therapy. That she finally understood the damage she caused. That she was learning what responsibility actually means. That she hoped one day she could become someone I didn't have to protect myself from. Her last line was simple: "I know I hurt you. I'm trying to be better." I read it twice, folded it once, and placed it in a drawer. Not out of anger. Not out of dismissal. But because closure doesn't always mean reconnection. Sometimes it's just a quiet acknowledgement that the story no longer owns you. That evening, I locked my car outside my building. The steering wheel club clicked into place, catching a thin stripe of orange sunset across the glass. And a quiet truth settled into me. What's mine stays mine. Not because I guard it with fear, but because I finally learned to protect the woman behind the boundaries. I walked upstairs, turned the key in my door, and stepped into the warm glow of my apartment. The silence that greeted me wasn't empty. It was earned. Chosen. Mine. And for the first time in my entire life, freedom didn't feel loud or dramatic. It felt like breathing.